Locis ante terminum, rerum creator postimus, custodita begins.The, sis presum ad custodiam.
Last time, we left Dante and Virgil sitting on the mountainside, watching the sun go down over the sea, as they listened to a lone pilgrim singing the beautiful song of Compline, Te lucis ante terminum, to thee before the close of day. The gates of the Purgatorio proper lay ahead of them, but by rule of the mountain it is not possible to travel by night, so the two settle down to rest and to sleep, and Dante has the first of 3 mysterious dreams that he will have as they move up the mountain side. There are no dreams in hell, as Helen Luke points out, no presentations from the unconscious, for in a sense the inferno is the unconscious, that part of the psyche where no light shines, where one is utterly gripped by the archetypes, as we have repeatedly seen. But here, in the Purgatorio, Dante the sleeper is presented with images and symbols from his unconscious self that in waking life he might begin to work with. What comes to him in all 3 dreams concerns eros, that notion of erotic love and his evolving relation to it. As he proceeds towards his goal, he will undergo a profound transformation, and the first step in this process involves getting to grips with the dreamscape presented. The first dream, on the first night, occurs in the early hours of the morning, just before daybreak. Dante is in that in-between state of consciousness, where the 2 realms touch and somehow intermingle. And within this partially awakened state, he hears the swallows greeting the dawn with their sweet song. Yet whilst in the dream world, a great eagle suddenly swoops down from the sky, seizes him and carries him high up the mountain to a great ring of fire. Images from the mythic tale of the beautiful boy Ganymede being abducted by Jupiter and borne up to Mount Olympus to become a royal cupbearer fill Dante's mind as he wakes, greatly shaken and disorientated. There is so much to unpack here, so much to ponder, not least being Dante's allusion to same-sex attraction, and those who condemn Dante for his depiction of such couplings in the Inferno might be interested to see how the poem pans out here. For Dante fleetingly imagines himself as this beautiful young boy, stolen away from his everyday world into the passionate embrace of the God who desires him. Now Mark Vernon suggests that the object of one's love is never the issue for Dante. It's the nature of love that really matters. In the ring of fire atop the mountain of the Purgatorio, just before the earthly paradise, we will encounter such souls again at the very end of their purgation on the mountain, the very end of their struggle, a struggle not at all to overcome their sexual inclination, but to overcome the last remnants of the possessive nature of erotic love, as Dante is clearly being called to do. To possess, or to be possessed, this is certainly how Dante experienced the power of Eros as a young man in Florence. He was similarly seized, as he is in his dream, by his overwhelming attraction to Beatrice. He was shot by Cupid's arrow and seriously laid low, as so many of us might remember being so rendered when teenage infatuation consumed us. At the end of his earlier book, La Vita Nuova, dedicated to his beloved, Dante had vowed to understand his love for her more deeply, not just as a love-struck poet in helpless courtly love mode, like Paolo and Francesca in Canto 5 Inferno, blown about on the harsh winds of the instinct. Dante, at that point, had explicitly set out to recapture the insight that he had dimly perceived from the very start, in the first star-crossed moment of their meeting, an insight that Beatrice will remind him of when he finally reaches her at the gate of heaven, the insight that right from the get-go he had seen the end in the beginning. He had seen that she could lead him to his own awakening, a flowering, if you like, which would return him to his own true self. This, of course, was the original goal of courtly love, as we see reflected in early Persian love poetry and in the Grail legends. Here, courtly love was a vehicle that could lift one up to the divine. And at this higher octave, Beatrice was Dante's muse, a reflection of his own inner soul, his anima, as the Jungians might say. His quest was never to overcome his love for her, but to honour it as a powerful force. For his entire life, Beatrice was the embodiment of this powerful force, so often denied in Christian teaching. Without her, there could have been no DivinaCommedia. Without her, way out ahead of him, his muse, his guide, his guardian angel, as he called her, the story could have never been. And poor old Dante might very well have ended up stranded nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita, in the middle of life, forever stranded in the dark wastes of Inferno 1. Yet, the chilling realization of the dream, suggests Mark Vernon, is that there is still work to be done. For the inescapable conclusion must surely be that the possessiveness externalized in the dream lies also within Dante, within his own way of relating to the other, to that which is loved and adored, and this has to change. But there is promise within the dream too, Helen Luke points out. Promise that if Dante is somehow able to move beyond his desire to possess, he might also ultimately become a cupbearer of the divine spark, but only if he is able to free himself from all concupiscence and give birth to an entirely new kind of love that Jung called the transcendent function. Throughout the Inferno, Dante witnessed the very opposite of this, but in looking, in daring to face the most aberrant expressions of love, love gone wrong, as it were, he may discover at last how to come upon it aright, to use Vernon's term. Only then will he emerge from the searing flames to become the cup-bearer, fit to return to earth with priceless treasure to share, as Joseph Campbell might say. When the dream fled, Dante tells us, it left the face of me pale, as of one whom fear congeals like frost. Beside me sat my comfort, only he, and lo, the sun was now 2 hours and more risen, and my eyes were turned toward the sea. Dante is seriously shaken, and not only by the dream, as we see, but also by the fact that the sun is high in the sky, and he and Virgil are no longer where they were when they laid themselves down to sleep the previous night. But dear, wise Virgil, his comfort, as he calls him, then explains that something quite different occurred whilst he was sleeping. Santa Lucia, she who came from the Virgin to bid Beatrice seek out Dante when he was lost and afraid in the dark wood at the very start, last night came, taking pity on him once more, and carried him up the last steep climb to the great gate, where now he has awakened. Dante is utterly perplexed how to square both sets of images in his mind. But Virgil reassures him, all is well. Fear nothing, said my lord. Sit thou secure at heart. We've come into a good estate. Faint not, but be the more alert therefore. Thou hast reached purgatory. See the great rampart of rock that compasses it round, and where the cleft shows yonder, there's the gate. And Dante was put at ease. When my leader saw me freed from anxiety, he tells us, he moved up by the cliff, and I followed toward the heights. And as we drew close, we were at a point, just where a break, like a fissure that divides the cliff, first appeared to me. I saw a gate and 3 steps of various colours below it, and a keeper, an angel. And his face was so full of light, Dante could not look directly upon him. The angel bid Dante come close, and instructed him to mount the 3 steps to the throne. The first, of polished marble, white as new-laid snow, in which Dante saw himself reflected. The second, dark and rugged and cracked both ways and across. And the third, fashioned all of porphyry, it seemed, Dante writes, that flamed and shone redder than bright blood spurting from a vein. From behind, Virgil urged him on, and tentatively Dante stepped forward, striking his breast 3 times as he did so, indicating his willingness to look squarely upon his faults on the journey ahead. Then he bowed devoutly at the angel's feet and prayed for mercy to be let in. The angel then gravely traced 7 P's on Dante's forehead, P for peccatum, sin in Latin, and he cautioned Dante to be sure to cleanse his wounds before his onward climb. Then he unlocked the great gate with his gold and silver keys. Gold for the masculine, yang element of consciousness, and silver for the feminine, yin for psyche and soul. They may be read as musical keys too, denoting frequency, major and minor, solfatic frequencies, healing tones, music as a way of entering in. And so our poets pass through, and the heavy gates slam shut, and the angel cautions them, echoing the words spoken to Orpheus as he retreated from the underworld after rescuing his beloved Eurydice, to be sure never to look back, for if they do, they will be returned to their former state. So, leaving the past behind, insomuch as they are able, our poets make their way through the tight passage in the rock, interestingly called the Eye of the Needle. And as they emerge on the other side, a lone voice, as if to celebrate their arrival, sings the great hymn of praise, Te Deum laudamus. Thee, O God, we praise. For a while, their path twists upward, then down, and then upward again, reflecting, the commentators say, their ongoing struggles, and our struggles too, to really rise up within ourselves. But they keep their focus forward, greatly encouraged by the heavenly hymn. O God, we praise thee. We acknowledge thee to be the Lord, everlasting Father. All the earth doth worship thee. To thee all the angels, the heavens and all the powers, all the cherubim and seraphim unceasingly proclaim, Holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of your glory.